This is a new historic super telephoto lens for all Sony users, 400 to 800, f6.3 up to f8. I had the pleasure to test this big boy in practice photographing birds in my area in Poland, and in this material I will share everything I know about it with lots of samples and my opinion. My name is Chris Bassel. I'm a professional journalist, content creator, video and photo editor working in the media industry for like more than 15 years. So I'm reviewing cameras. In that time I had in my hands almost every good camera lens on the market, testing it out for Polish biggest media. But now I'm starting my new YouTube channel, so I would kindly ask you to give me thumbs up, to subscribe to this channel, and let me know below in the comments what do you think about my video. But let's now focus on the lens itself, because it's a really unique one. This is a Sony 400 to 800 6.3 up to f8, and it is the first this kind of lens in the history of Sony E mount, because it's the first lens with 800 focal length. Till that day you had only 600mm f.4, a super expensive huge lens, or 200 to 600, like more budget friendly and very nice lens for wildlife. So this lens is unique, and this is, as you can see, a lens that was designed with wildlife photography, with especially I think even birds photography in mind, maybe some kind of sports also, or landscape photography, whenever you want to have a high compression of your frame. It is quite small, as you can say, for that kind of lens, and not very heavy. The length of the lens is only less than 35 centimeters, and the weight is less than 2.5 kilograms. The construction itself is closed, no elements are going out of the lens. This lens is really durable. It has all those Sony standards of durability. I was able to test this lens in a practice out there in a wildlife, maybe not so wild, but I could capture some birds in Poland. And what I noticed at the very beginning is that it's not so huge, it's not so heavy. I was able to just walk with it for a longer time on my back. What I also really like about it is that when you want to change your focal length from 400 to 800, you don't have to spin this focal length ring so much like in a Canon 200-800. There the spin is very long, which is not very comfortable. Here it's very short, but very precise and detailed. It works with a really high culture. This helps a lot out in the field when you want to follow the bird or make in a very short period of time several pictures with different perspective and different framing, from a little bit wider to very close-ups, or react on what's going on out in the field when the birds are changing their positions, are flying or coming somewhere. It's super comfortable to spin this ring your one hand. Footer, this thing that you mount to your tripod, this is included. It is very solid. However, you cannot unfortunately remove it easily without using of any keys, like in the 200-600. In that case, you have to use a screwdriver to unscrew the 4 screws there, and then you can remove it. The front filter has a diameter of 105 millimeters. In case of 200-600 is 95 millimeters, but the general feel of working with those two lenses is very similar when it comes to build quality, size and everything like that. It also has some additional switches out there. So the first one is AF MF, which is obvious. Then you have AF limiter. You have 3 modes. First one is full, then 10 meters to near, and the third one, the newest, and then you have 8 meters to indefinite, which is a little difference from 200-600, because there you have 10 meters to indefinite. Next you have switch full-time DMF, direct manual focus, and 2 last one are about the system of stabilization, on and off, and 3 modes of this system of stabilization. Also you have 2 rounded buttons that you can use for many purposes. Additionally, in the box you will also find a new hood, a very solid, a big one as you can see, which also has this little window for filters. Minimum focusing distance when it comes to 400mm is 1.7 meters, and it goes up to 3.5 meters when we are focusing on 800 millimeters. Again, it's a different because in a lens 200-600 is 2.4 meters. This is a huge lens, so inside you will find a lot of glass. To be precise, it's 27 elements in 19 groups. There's also a 6 ED or Super ED glass elements. The aperture contains of 11 blades, and the quality of the background of the bokeh is really nice. Now let's talk about the image quality, which is probably the most important for all of us. And in that regard, this lens is really great. First of all, what I can notice it at super sharp, starting from 6.3 at 400 millimeters. It's really sharp image. There are lots of details in the middle of the picture, which is obvious, but also if you look at the corners, it's also sharp. The decrease of quality is just slightly, just a little bit. If you increase the aperture to f8 or 11, it's barely noticeable any change. It's also great at 800 millimeters, and there you can also see that the same situation at f.8. You will see that the picture is super sharp in the middle and also very nice at the corners. If you look at the real life photos, you can also notice that even if we magnify the picture, it's super sharp as long as there was a low ISO. I was making the pictures with rented Sony A9 Mark III, so it's like I think 24 megapixels as long as I remember, and well, that's not the best sensor on the market, the most detailed, but still the quality is really great. Optically, this is a really good lens. Even if you turn off the correction in the camera, it still performs well, but if you turn it on, it's basically almost ideal. Well, looking at the distortion, for example, with correction on, everything is perfect, but if you turn it off, then you will notice at both 400 and 800 there is this pillow distortion, and it's not huge, it's quite small, I would say, but if you turn on the correction, both JPEGs and RAW photos looking very good. There's no issue with that. Same story with vignette. It's visible when you turn off the correction, but if you turn on the correction, it basically disappears from the beginning, so the correction is really good. I didn't notice any big problems with aberration besides like working real life in the nature, and also any flares from the sun. Well, in Poland there was not much sun at that time, so I couldn't test it extensively, but from the pictures I made, I don't see any issues with that. There's a high contrast on the pictures, are very natural looking. Pictures are super sharp, and I like the flow, like the general style of colors that it produces. This is a really nice lens for wildlife photography. Sony 400-800 contains of two linear autofocus engines, which are super silent and super smooth and fast. It supports the newest cameras from Sony and can work easily with autofocus tracking, recording video 4K, 120p or even 240p, which is also available in some newer cameras, and also 120 frames per second when it comes to shooting with A9 Mark III. It recognizes birds, their eyes, tracks them very well. Even as you can see here from the screen from the camera, when the bird was somewhere in the bush, and it was somehow even sometimes hidden by the plant, by the tree, and still the camera and the lens was able to track the eye. If the eye was somehow hidden, it didn't lost, but came back to track it. It also could recognize the back of its head. So the quality of tracking here is really, I think, really top notch, the best quality on the market, and I'm super happy with how easy it is to track birds with this lens. The same applies to video. It is very smooth, very fast, and you can trust it a lot. And when we are talking about video, it's also worth to mention that this lens supports this breathing compensation optically, but also is working together with the camera, which has some option to compensate the breathing. And as you can see at the sample, when we change the focus, the object doesn't change the size too much. It's really working very well, and I think the videographers will be super happy with this lens. And when we are recording wildlife with 800mm or even 400mm, the support of system of stabilization is super important, and with that lens is also included optical stabilization, which supports, of course, works very well with the new cameras from Sony, which also has the stabilization in the sensor, and altogether works super smooth. As you can see, 800mm without tripod. On the video it was no problem. I was able to track birds and it was very smooth. How about the price? I'm recording this video a few weeks before the release, when I'm very grateful to Sony Poland for letting me this lens to test it out for a few days and send it back. You can see the price here above, the final price of this lens, and I'm really curious about what do you think about it. Is it a good price for this lens or not? Please let me know below in the comments. Is it really a good lens? Of course it is. And if I would be a bird photographer or wildlife photographer using Sony system, that I would like to have one lens that would be very universal and at the same time not so big and heavy, and will be able to really make a lot of adjustments with it, I would definitely buy that one. I'm really recommending this lens. In my opinion, it's a really great lens, and the Sony shooters were looking forward to have this kind of option in the lineup. Let me know below in the comments, what do you think about it? Do you think it's a nice lens or not? Give me thumbs up, subscribe to this channel if you didn't do so already, and thank you so much for staying with me in this video, for watching this video and being with me in my YouTube journey. Thank you so much, and see you in the next episodes on my channel. See you, bye bye.